What is up, YouTube? This is Cody on the Cash Killing AC Sports Network, bringing you the post-race video for Charlotte. Now, this was the 5th race in the Chase. It was dominated by Tony Stewart early. Greg Biffle was kind of in the mix too. They look like the two dominant cars, but pit strategy throughout really mixed up the field, and caution flags during the green flag series of pit stops really mixed things up. Kyle Busch, kind of in the middle portion of the race, looked like the dominant car. And in the end, Matt Kenseth was the car. He led quite a few laps at the end, and he was the guy that everyone had to run down. Kyle Busch said it afterwards. He finished second, and he said that Matt Kenseth just figured something out that no one else on the track figured out. And that's pretty impressive for a driver to do that on this level of racing. Carl Edwards, who's now the points leader, finished third in the race, and he has a 5-point lead over second place Kevin Harvick in the points. Casey Kane and Marcus Ambrose rounded out the top 5, finishing 4th and 5th. It was a good day for them, just as kind of guys that aren't in the chase, but you still have to try to race, but you don't want to screw it up for the guys that are trying to race for the big picture. And that's something that's a very delicate situation for these guys that aren't in the chase. The big story of the day, though, was that Jimmie Johnson did crash out of the race. It was toward the closing stages. He was battling with Ryan Newman for a position. He got sideways. He was pointing toward the infield. He straightened it out, but then he overcorrected, and he ended up slamming the wall, which is really, it was an incredible crash. You could see the wall move, and it was a testament to these safer barriers and this Hans device that, and just all the safety things NASCAR has put in place for these race cars, these racetracks, and for these drivers. And I would say that 10-15 years ago, if that wreck would have happened, Jimmie Johnson might not be racing next week at Talladega. So the point standings right now are, as I said, Carl Edwards is in the points lead, and then back to 8th spot with Jimmie Johnson. He is now there at 35 points behind the leader. I'd say he's still within striking distance, but he has to definitely pound out some good finishes. He's used his mulligan, and these last 5 races he needs to finish well and get some wins. But from Jimmie Johnson on back, they're all 60 points or more behind point standings leader Carl Edwards. That is Dale Earnhardt Jr., Ryan Newman, Jeff Gordon, and Denny Hamlin. Those guys are not going to win the championship this year, and they can only summarize their season as somewhat of a disappointment, because every year you want to get there, and they made it to the show, they just didn't perform when they were there. So next week we move on to the wild card in the Chase, Talladega, and that's going to be a lot of fun, just watching that. It's one of my favorite tracks personally. We'll get to see the 2-car drafting probably, but NASCAR did make some changes to their restrictor plate track rules, so we'll see how that affects the cars, or if the competitors are still going to find a way to do the 2-car draft, or if pack drafting is going to return. So I'll kind of tell you a little bit about that next week in the Talladega video on the Cash Killing AC Sports Network.